me today is the GNSO Council Leadership Team, Chair James Bladel, Vice Chairs Heather Forrest and Donna Austin. James, I know that GNSO has met with other key stakeholders at this meeting and held 2 public sessions with the GAC on the second level protection for certain names and acronyms. How did that go?
I think it was encouraging. As you know, and many in the community are aware, this issue has been stuck for a number of years. And I think it's safe to say that we made progress. That said, we have a lot of work left to be done, and there's still a number of open questions that we are relaying back to the open PDP on this topic. But the good news is I think that we are talking again and we see a path forward.
And Heather, I also know that the GNSO met with the ICANN board earlier this week. What topics were discussed?
I think really we had 3 major topics that came out of those discussions, which were very constructive. One of the things that we discussed was the meeting scheduling and how that's proceeding. This is, of course, our second year in the new meeting format. This is our second meeting A, and we are concerned and would just like to be mindful of avoiding conflicts in meeting schedules. So that's one thing that we discussed. Second thing that we discussed was the role of the PDP within this new empowered ICANN, within this new independent ICANN post-IANA transition. I think we're just hoping to remind the community and help to educate the community as to the role of the GNSO and how that interacts, let's say, with work that we have ongoing within the community in the form of a cross-community working group, what we often refer to as a CCWG. And finally, we were very grateful to receive the board's priorities for 2017, and we'll reflect on them going forward.
Thank you, Heather. Donna, this week's much of the GNSO work is focused on the 3 major PDPs, namely the next generation RDS to replace WHOIS, and the subsequent procedures, and also the RPMs. How much work has been accomplished this week?
I think we've made significant progress on a number of them, and I mean the value of these meetings is the opportunity for the working groups to meet face to face. I don't think you can replace that kind of engagement when you're on a teleconference. The RDS PDP seems to be moving on really well, and even though we understand that they've got a long way to go yet, their approach is very methodical, and it seems like they're making some really good steady progress. The RPMs they're moving along in a similar kind of fashion, and the subsequent procedures. New GTLD PDP has reached another kind of milestone in their work, in that they've socialised with the community the community comment 2, which is a list of it's quite a long list of questions that they will send back to the community and ask them to provide some input on, so that the working group can move forward post, probably leading up to Johannesburg.
Thank you, and it's a great segue to my last question. We know the Johannesburg meeting is coming up very soon, so what do each of you think will be the major priority for the GNSO? So Donna, you can.
So not so much the Johannesburg meeting, but leading up to that, the council today actually approved the Standing Selection Committee, which is a committee that will assist the GNSO in appointing candidates to the various review teams or working groups. It's a responsibility that we've found is tying up a lot of our time administratively. So being able to establish a standing selection committee will help we hope will help the GNSO make those appointments in a more timely fashion, so it gives us time to focus on other things.
I think we have a fair bit of work to do to further our PDP work between now and Johannesburg, and in particular we had a key announcement made this week by the co-chairs of the subsequent procedures policy development process working group, indicating that they would like to bring the community together in a dialogue to work on some issues that remain and questions that remain in relation to the protection of geographic names within the DNS. And what we have in mind and what the PDP Working Group is planning is a session to be held between now and Johannesburg, held on the 25th of April, I believe, to bring the community together to simply establish what the various positions are in relation to geographic names. And that would then put us in very solid footing for having a substantive dialogue over what we hope could be a few hours to sit down and discuss those positions and see how we could best advance them for the best interests of the DNS and the global internet community.
And I'm encouraged to see that the work on the bylaws drafting team and the implementation of the new bylaws is continuing. This is, again, part of the transition that we had late last year. The GNSO has been working on its new bylaws, and the team that is developing those for implementation that drive all of the appointments, review teams, and our participation in the empowered community, all of those bylaws are continuing to be adopted.
Thank you very much for speaking to us today, and enjoy the rest of your meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.